As the season continues to march its way towards its steady conclusion, the question still remains, can anyone catch the near unbeatable Sean Campbell at the front of the field? Well, tonight may offer us a little bit of an idea, if anyone can, as we find ourselves at the home of the former German Grand Prix at the Nurburgring in the full arena layout. Hello everyone, my name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Ewan O'Leary with our director and producer, David Christie, behind the scenes. And Ewan, this is a track that offers a multitude of overtaking opportunities and absolutely a fantastic run from start to finish.
It is a good circuit, certainly to drive on, certainly one of my favourites, I've got to say, but in terms of those overtaking opportunities, lots of chances, but not many or not a lot of executions, I've got to say, in terms of the EU Championship earlier on tonight. That doesn't mean it wasn't exciting, far from it. However, it was very, very difficult, especially when you get behind one of these Mercedes, especially around this circuit. It seems almost impossible to get by them.
Yeah, it certainly does. The Mercedes on home territory here, and also removing one of those potential hazards of that close running is going to be the tighter NGK chicane that we run. But as we previewed there at the beginning, a pretty hefty lead there in the pro standings for Sean Campbell. Up at the top, Harry Wills, the closest one to be able to closing him down. Jonathan Roulette is going to be in there behind him with Dean Timms and Chase Wilson rounding out your top five. A pretty heated battle, it has to be said, between Wilson and R.A.W.S there for P5. Working our way down there, you can see the rest of it into the AM standings as well. And Justin Delano holds on to about a 50-point advantage over Braden Mayling. Sheyas Venkataraju there is about 6 points off of Mayling as he has continued his stomp up through the field. As then Jeff Carollo, James Hebb, Daniel Florea, Fabian Ponce, John Casey, some pretty close battling out there. But Ewan, we've got about a minute or so left to go in practice here. Good stuff to be seen, and does look like Campbell is going to be right where we expect him to be.
Absolutely, although I do believe, anyway, he wasn't until the final moments anyway, that Jonathan Roulette has actually toppled him here in this session. In the qualifying there, it was all very close actually between Roulette, Sean Campbell you just mentioned there, and Harry Wills as well. The top three in the championship showing exactly that by being absolutely miles ahead of the rest. They had a second over fourth place and a second and a half over fifth. So they're really the three to beat, and there's no surprise there. However, I've got to say, I do think that by the end of the day, Jonathan Roulette could be in second place in the standings, with Harry Wills a little bit off form at the moment. Jonathan Roulette coming right into form as we speak right now in terms of this pole position, in terms of the last few races that he's competed in as well. He won race one last week at Monza, and then was had a little bit further down. He was where was he? He was a little bit further down, third place in the second race, which is still not bad. So yeah, I really think he could overtake Harry Wills for second by the end of today, but we'll wait and see if that comes true or not.
Yes, we will, as checkered flag flies here for the practice session for the first of our races here tonight. Just a reminder that we have one 25-minute race and then a 50-minute race with a mandatory pit stop in the middle of it there. And you are right that Campbell does seem to be a little bit mired down in the field there as they run. Or there we go, it flips itself back around to let just barely pipping out on Sean Campbell. But let's go ahead and take a look at that qualifying order. It is Jonathan Roulette leading Campbell, Harry Wills, Dan Tenorio, Taylor Lane, Gary Brown, and Jeremy Littleton rounding out your pro standings.
Yeah, shorter pro standings, but a little bit longer in the AMS this time. Dean Timms will be alongside Sheyas Venkataraju, very much in form in the AMS. Fabian Ponce will be alongside Braden Mayling, second place in the standings. He's just ahead of his championship leader there, Justin Delano. Casey Metzger is sixth, ahead of Brent Bravata, a new driver, just stumping me there briefly. John Trainer, 8th place here in this one with James Hebb and Matthew Plaisance on the 5th row together. The McLaren of Daniel Florea, 11th ahead of Jeff Carollo. Andrew Hewitt, 13th ahead of Charles Boscho. That's Drew Neubauer and Andrew Rasmussen rounding out the 16-car AM grid. So a little bit bigger of an AM grid actually, but a little bit smaller pro grid here on this occasion.
Yeah, a little bit of a smaller pro grid, and that may lead itself to a little bit of traffic management as drivers work their way around, starting things off by coming through Advent as they go now, trying to see here as we get that familiar spread in the field. Has to be said, quite a few Lamborghinis, quite a few Mercedes. The question's going to be is if anybody can top that German mark, which looks to be near unbeatable at the Nurburgring. Going down now through the NGK chicane, a potential time to be able to get an overtake there, but very, very narrow. Ouellette going to be leading us through here, through the Coca-Cola curve as they go. Leading them around, looking to Barney the Flagman to be able to wave that green flag as everybody slowly inches their way towards the line, waiting for the cars to be released, and there they go. We are racing at the Nürburgring. It is a brilliant start there from Ouellette and Wills and even Taylor Lane, but a terrible one there for Sean Campbell. He finds himself all the way back down in 4th place, trying to make up 3rd with a move down to the inside of lane through turn 1.
He was completely asleep on the start there, Sean Campbell. No idea what he was doing, but he gave a car length to Jonathan Ouellette on the inside line there, and then didn't react very well either. So he's lost out massively here. Taylor Lane's fighting with him now. Shoulder barges him out wide, and Dan Tenori. Oh, contact between them both. They both go around, and he gets hit as well, Sean Campbell.
That is absolute disaster here for your championship leader as we look back in the AM category right now. Sheas working his way around, able to get a lead there over Braden Mailing, as we've seen him be able to do a couple of times. That's going to be Bravata and Metzger leading in behind there in the BMWs as this part of the grid looks relatively single file and ready together.
This has all changed, actually. Bravata certainly has made a very good start there. Not entirely sure what happened between those guys towards turn 1, but look at the way the pro field has been split up by this early on in the race. That chaos on the exit of the Mercedes arena has wreaked havoc in this field. Both Sean Campbell and Taylor Lane are way back. This is what happened. It starts with an initial shoulder barge here of Taylor Lane on Sean Campbell, who still wants to go up the inside here at 4. Does Taylor Lane come across at him? It looks like it from that angle, and then the Porsche there has absolutely nowhere to go. That was Gary Brown, who wasn't really left with any other option.
Yeah, just a little bit of a sitting duck there in the middle of the road. And there is Campbell. Some pretty heavy damage to the side of that Lamborghini, and even more damage there for Taylor Lane as he is having a little bit of an off-track moment there. I'm getting the sense that this may be a tow and retire.
It may well be, if not a retirement, then it's certainly going to be a stop for repairs now for Taylor Lane, because that is a pretty heavily damaged car. Fabian Ponce has not had a good start here down in the pack. He's up to 6th place now, gets ahead of Trainer, but yeah, not a great start for Fabian Ponce for whatever reason. I think he did start a little bit further forward, and Bravata in particular on his debut has had a tremendous start early on in this one, already up to 3rd place among the championship contenders like Venkataraju and Mailing, who are 1 and 2 right now.
Yes, as they are up at the front of the field, and we continue to watch here Jonathan Ouellette. It has to be said, Harry Wills not looking like he's going away anytime soon right now. Wills has been able to keep that gap at about 0.7 of a second as they dive their way through the couple of corners here, trying to see what they're going to be able to do. Here is Campbell. Despite the damage to that Lamborghini, it certainly looks like he is trying to close in on the back of Brown.
Yeah, just looking every which way, the way he can get through here. It doesn't seem like that damage is really holding Sean Campbell back right now, so that's very helpful. But he's going to make his way down the inside now into the Dunlop hairpin, and this is going to be a nice move, really. I get the feeling that Gary Brown might be suffering the effects of a little bit of damage as well, possibly in that car right now. But I am surprised Sean Campbell is able to continue on at the pace he is, because you saw some of the damage down on the right-hand side, particularly where he really got smashed by that Porsche. I'm very surprised it's not really affecting him at the moment.
I'm very surprised as well, Ewan, as we continue to watch this battle right now between Tims and Tenorio. Absolutely fierce, jumping around here a little bit. This is Justin Delano. Remember, second they are in the points leading the way, in the points championship. Very late onto the binders there, going down into the left-hander. Delano certainly wanting to move his way up through the field as much as possible.
Well, yeah, it's going to be difficult for him. Delano didn't qualify that greatly, which does suggest, at least in these sessions, that he's not actually running that well. However, we did see that with multiple drivers in the EU Championship, and then they went on to perform quite well as we see Florea just having to cede position there, and Gary Brown having to come in. I wonder if he is feeling the effects of that damage. Even more remarkable that Sean Campbell isn't, because I thought Gary Brown would get away with it out of the two of them, but turns out that's happened the other way around, as Justin Delano looks to maybe make a move into turn one.
He's going to be on the prowl here, looks down to the inside in that Porsche. He's going to have to be later on the binders, and it doesn't quite look like he is close enough to be able to get that done by Casey Metzger. And he's got to be a little bit careful. That's Fabian Ponce coming up there behind in the BMW. Pretty renowned as being quick in a straight line is that other German mark. And we've got a spinner there in front. That's Mailing.
It is Mailing from second place, and he reverses there to just get out the way. Everybody doesn't really want to cause another accident by having a crash here. Let's see what happened. I think he was just on his own. If you do really want to dive for the apex here on the right-hand side, and he wasn't even doing that. He was just way too hot on the way in. But normally what you see there is they're really coming off of that curb, off of that AstroTurf on the right-hand side. They're diving for the apex at turn 3, and on that little transition there, you can go around very easily. He didn't even do that on that occasion, just misjudged it really badly, I'm afraid, Mailing, and he's down to 10th.
Yeah, all the way down to 10th. Luckily, he didn't get too much more damage there, as we've got another little battle starting to work its way through the field. This is a real gaggle of cars right now. This is James Hebb leading over Jeff Carollo, Braden Mailing, where he's sort of slotted himself back into the field. Daniel Floria, Andrew Hewitt, a big group of cars. That familiar McLaren. Here comes the BMW, almost 3 wide there into the left-hander.
Tried it, but didn't end up going for it. He was going to be on such a tight line there that it was never going to work. Carollo was never going to let him have that one. As in the pros, by the way, Jeremy Littleton's been off the road, but I believe it was on his own. Braden Mailing still trying to make his way through here into the chicane. Let's have a look what happened. It was on his own, out the chicane. It's such a tricky section of corners, and he keeps it out of the wall, but he's lost a whole lot of time there. And even Sean Campbell's got through, actually, back in the top 5.
Yeah, back up into the top 5 as they go, trying to see, though, if anything is going to be able to happen as they run their way through. Hebb certainly getting a little bit of an advantage here. Mailing trying to see if he is going to be able to come back through the field. Looking. Doesn't like that BMW's got the straight line grunt to be able to get by the Lamborghini going down into the Howell Cook. He's going to have to re-rack and try this a different day.
Yeah, side by side in the background though with Charles Boschel involved. These two still fighting it out. Dean Timms holding back Dan Tenorio here at this stage, and there is 2 pairs of cars at the moment inside the top 4 with Ouellette and Wills battling over the race lead, and then that battle for third as Charles Boschel did end up going off the road. Actually, it looked like in that side by side battle, and he's lost out on a load of positions. Actually drops to the back of the AM class as a result.
Yeah, and that's going to be a result out of that slowdown penalty. Let's watch here. Again, forced a little bit wide coming out there and just picked it up. And I'm not sure if that was a slowdown. Taking a look at it, if it was just a loss of momentum, maybe categorized as a slowdown, because iRacing think he could have gained an advantage by running that wide.
He's running really slowly on the exit, the full curve there, turn 7. And why is my question? Does he go off here as well? He does.
Yep.
So the car on the outside, I think it was Drew Neubauer, just came across on him ever so slightly. Didn't really do anything illegal, but maybe just spooked him a little bit. Charles Boschel ended up on the grass, and there's only one way that's going to end, unfortunately.
And meanwhile, this battle up for the final podium positions between Timms and Tenorio continues to race on fast and fierce right now. Tenorio actually had a little bit of a look going down into Coca-Cola. Now it's going to be Timms forced to go super defensive down into the Howell Cook. He's going to try to defend that inside line. The 71 of Tenorio looks for the crossover, but a good defense there from Timms is going to prevent any attack from his Twisted Racing teammate.
Yeah, not able to do it just on that occasion. We've also got Metzger defending in a very similar way, in a similar car, in the same Mercedes as well. Justin Delano this time is the aggressor, but not going to be making his way through. Fabian Potts looking very strong here, recovering from what I think was a very poor start. Is now going to maybe look to take both of these. Justin Delano wants to get through before he can get there. Down the inside into turn 3, side by side. This is always tricky through the Mercedes arena, but they have managed it, although Delano will have to still settle for 4th.
He'll settle for 4th, but he's got Metzger right in his sights as he maybe going to have a little bit of a look here going down into Valvoline. It's only about a car length distance in between the two. Doesn't quite look like that's what he's going to want to dive in on right now. Look how close that Porsche is getting to the rear end of the Mercedes, but that Mercedes straight line grunt continues to play itself out. We jump around here a little bit more. This is Matthew Plaisance in the Ferrari. Has he maybe had a problem here?
It looks like, well, that car looked like it was briefly behaving pretty poorly, as Justin Delano's been off here, I think. He has. Justin Delano has been for a spin at the Dunlop hairpin. We've got off the road for Trainer as well from up the road. He doesn't know where to go, John Trainer. He's got big damage there. I wonder if there's some suspension damage. There must be, with the way that car's behaving, going towards the Schumacher S, and Rasmussen almost fearful to get towards him. This is what happened. I think Delano's going to go for it, and he's going to get hit by Trainer, the fourth car in line. Or is it? No. Delano gets hit by Ponce and then straight into a Trainer, who actually gets very unlucky because Trainer only gets clipped there, but he gets pretty horrific suspension damage from very small contact.
Yeah, and you can see just how much that Mercedes is crabbing. And unfortunately here, another incident for Dean Timms. This is going to be coming out of Warsteiner, and it looks like there that Timms was on his way to a spin and then made contact there with Tenorio. Tenorio really left nowhere to go, and look who's come up behind. The one, the only, the interminable Sean Campbell.
Yeah, he's recovered very well from his lap 1 incidents, and he's surely going to be dispatch of Dan Tenorio pretty soon. He was catching him anyway, and now with the damage, Tenorio's only going to be going slower than before, whereas Campbell's damage is not phasing him at all. He's so close to the back of the Mercedes, even looked down the inside at turn 7, but it doesn't often work out well. Maybe into the Dunlop hairpin. It's going to be the chance for Sean Campbell. The line is going to be left to the inside here. Is Campbell going to just risk it and go down the inside? He is not. He's going to go to the outside instead, but he'll have to wait a bit longer.
Yeah, not going to be able to do it, but is that the move there from Campbell? A little bit of an unorthodox place to be able to get it. Moves back there before they get into Michelin, and that is some hefty defense there from Dan Tenorio. I wonder here, you can actually see the damage there on the right front of Tenorio's car as courtesy of that spin from Harry Wells.
Yeah, it's we go back to Braden Melling at the moment, trying to recover from that spin, and he already has gained 3 places since we saw him last. Matthew Plaisance now is just going to roll over for him, is he? Braden Melling around the outside, going into the Schumacher S. That was exceptionally impressive, and so he's up another place, and Plaisance might well be down a few more places soon as well.
May well be indeed, as there we go side by side through the Coca-Cola curve, and that is going to be Sean Campbell back up into the podium positions. A good run there for him, just being aggressive coming out of it, but I don't think this is done yet. Dan Tenorio is going to look around the outside here as they dive down into the corner, waiting to see if he's going to be able to get anything, and there they go. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to hold it out.
Doesn't look like it, and I wasn't expecting him to either. Sean Campbell just making that dive into the final corner, often a little bit risky, but Tenorio gave him more than enough room. They could have actually fit an extra car in the middle of them, but you wouldn't want to see it probably. There was enough room left, which is the important thing, and Campbell is through into 3rd place, which is a very good thing as well for him. So that should be the limit now for Sean Campbell. He will lose a few points from Ouellette and Wills, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was looking at turn 4 of this race.
No, nowhere near as bad as we jump back into the battle in the AM category right now. That is going to be Plaisance holding off a very, very nimble Jeff Carollo. Here is Charles Michel as he works his way around Andrew Hewitt. Remember, we saw him have a little bit of that issue. Let's watch and take a look at the replay here as they go down into the braking zone. Oh, little bit of how you doing there from the Porsche in the back. I believe, was that Rasmussen or was that Delano?
It definitely wasn't Delano. It wasn't orange enough to be him. It was Rasmussen, yeah. So yeah, Rasmussen just tapped it. I was actually not sure there was contact looking at that camera angle. I couldn't see it, but clearly they felt it, and Rasmussen did as well because he redressed the position immediately there. And so fair play on the sportsmanship between those two, as these two continue to fight as well. As I said, I think this is going to be the limit now for Sean Campbell. That's not a car for position just up in front here. That's Gary Brown actually recovering again and going a lap down. But Campbell should be able to hold on to 3rd place here as long as the damage will carry him fast enough along the straights here. We know how good the Mercedes is in a straight line, but Tenorio also slightly hobbled by some damage. So Campbell should be fine to finish in this position. That will be the only position in the top 3, though, that's certain until the end, because Ouellette and Wills, I'm sure, are going to fight it out through the final half of this race as well. Only half a second between them.
Yeah, only half a second between them as we watch here Fabian Ponce working his way through as they go. Oh, and Braden Mayling having a little bit of a problem there to the outside of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's not the first spin we've seen today, and I'm afraid it's might have come on his own again. I think he was getting away from these guys before that spin, so I fear that might have been on his own as these three continue to battle for 6th place. Very entertaining, but yeah, I've got a very terrible feeling it's going to be on his own. Through the chicane, okay, and then just gets on the grass, tries to brake towards the final corner. Does he hit anything? Oh, he noses it slightly into the wall, and it's just not a good race for Braden Mayling.
As they go now, continuing to work their way through. This is Carollo here that we watched, that battle between Plaisance and Heb down to the inside. Ooh, that looked like it could have got a little bit fierce, and I am sad to report I believe it did. That is Plaisance spun around.
Yes, oh dear me, it was a lot worse than we thought actually. Plaisance was the first around of Mailing's made up all those places. He lost almost immediately there. Daniel Florea somehow got involved as well. I have no idea how that happened, but we always knew it was going to be risky. We saw it from that camera shot and we knew immediately what was going to happen. It was such a late dive, and he's not even really on the apex there in the Lamborghini there for Heb. And unfortunately, he doesn't really control the car very well on the grass either when he gets down there. So spears into Daniel Florea as well. I'm afraid that is totally, for me, it's totally on James Head there. And he's unfortunately spun around 2 cars in one move there, very sadly.
Yes, he has, is Dean Timms, who we did see having that spin and issue a little bit earlier on. He is going to come down into pit lane here. A tragic end, it has to be said, for the day for the number 46, the Twisted Racing Team driver. But as we focus here on the pack right now, Justin Delano working his way on through right now, trying to see what he is going to be able to get as he goes, trying to close down on Metzger for that final podium position here in the AM category. But he's got to watch out. Fabian Ponce closing down in behind.
Yes, he is at the moment, still recovering quite nicely. Metzger is running at a similar pace to these guys at the moment, though. Delano's kind of meeting his limit a little bit in terms of what he can achieve in pace, at least in this race. I'm not entirely sure. Can I see damage maybe to the front right of that car? Is it slightly scuffed? I'm not entirely sure. I don't think so. But maybe that's holding him back ever so slightly, as Daniel Florea has certainly been held back here with a pit stop, and James Heb continues on and will continue battling with Drew Neubauer as well. There's plenty of battles going on up and down the field. Trying to look down the inside at turn 4. That's very brave considering what happened just one lap ago. It didn't quite come off for him that time.
No, didn't exactly come to play out there. Drew Neubauer going to be able to keep ahead as we focus in on that battle once again. Delano trying to close in on the back of Casey Metzger, but that Mercedes keeping its leg ahead as they go. Look at that gap. He is really able to extend there as they work their way through the corner. Ponce not looking like he's able to close back on the back of the Porsche. Let's call it about 4 car lengths as they come down into Michelin and Warsteiner.
Absolutely. It's a big job for Metzger. I know I mentioned that he's on a similar pace to Delano and Ponce. While that is true, he is still going to have a hard time keeping these guys behind, of course. However, that straight line speed that the Mercedes possesses will just help him, and this fast chicane will help him as well. Justin Delano not able to make a dive like he might have done if this was the slower version of that chicane. He's just going to have to work on a move, and this is the point in the race where we start to see people struggling to get through, especially when you're trying to overtake a Mercedes. It's just so difficult. The straight line speed is really good, but Metzger unfortunately has not quite got that at the moment. Delano with a little bit of a look down the inside here.
Little bit of a look down to the inside, tries to be able to take it away, and getting his elbows out there is Delano, but is Metzger going to be able to hold that inside line through the Mercedes-Benz Arena section? They're going to be side by side now, and it looks like Delano's got a nose ahead, but it's going to be preferred line here to Metzger. They're going to continue to duke this out, and now finally it's going to switch back to Delano, but Delano's got to fall back, and he may lose a position here to Ponce.
Oh, just on the grass there for the BMW, who's going to benefit from Delano taking such a tight line through turn 4 and a terrible exit onto this straight as well. He's going to fight it though. Around the outside through 6 gives you the inside for 7, and Delano's going to use that to his advantage. Inside line for the Dunlop hairpin as well, although the nicer run for the BMW might get Ponce the position up before the braking zone. Delano dives it to the apex under brakes, and he's going to get the place. Is he? The banking helping Ponce just a little bit. He won't be able to do it. A great fight between these three drivers, though. Metzger with great defending there, just very ever so slightly and ever so cheekily just shoving Delano that little bit wide through turn 3, and it helped him to hold on to what is now second place.
Yeah, and certainly as we also take a look here at Jonathan Ouellette as we close in the final 6 minutes of this race. Ouellette having that gap between himself and Harry Wills, the two teammates here. It has come down to about 8.5 tenths of a second. Harry Wills on the push. I think he knows that Sean Campbell is a little bit wounded here in this race, and he wants to be able to gobble up every single point that he can.
By the way, Brett Brevitar as well from second place in AM has gone back to the pit lane and just towed back straight away. I think he went off at the Schumacher S. From what I could see some lines in the gravel. Oh, and it was him. It was him, I'm afraid to say. Oh, he was so near to saving it as well. Wow, that was weird. The way he went into the wall there. Well, yeah, that was very weird, but he's back to the pit lane now, and I'm afraid he's not the only driver to have made a long stop in this race. Gary Brown has, Daniel Florea, Andrew Rasmussen, Dean Timms, John Traynor. They all have made more than 1 minute long pit stops in a race where you don't need to stop.
Indeed, as we've got a lot of drivers coming in for damage and the like here, but we keep our eyes focused now. It's Delano trying to close in on the back of Metzger. This battle getting very, very fierce. That battle between Ouellette and Wills spreading out just a little bit as they run, and this is now our closest battle out on the track. Delano once again trying to use that Porsche, the good rotation there into that rear-engine, rear-wheel drive machine, getting it around, trying to see what he is able to do as they dive down now into the Dunlop hairpin. It closes up just a little bit through mid-corner, but is he be able to keep that up as they come down the backstretch?
I'm yet to work out really whether Casey Metzger has just got a lot of wing, a lot of aerodynamics on that Mercedes at the moment, or whether Delano has really trimmed out his Porsche here, because normally we see the Mercedes so difficult to pass in a straight line, and at the moment Delano's really giving Metzger a very hard time. We'll be able to see it again here towards the chicane, even though we won't really see any moves. We certainly won't see any moves towards the chicane, you wouldn't imagine. Not for the championship leader anyway. So it's hard to know whether Metzger is just slow in a straight line or whether Delano is quick, but it is allowing Delano to have great chances at going down the inside and towards turn 1, and then they're having a fantastic battle into the Mercedes arena, which hopefully will happen again this lap.
Yeah, hopefully it will there as we see some differing lines, and that is going to be Delano setting himself up to immediately jump down to the inside as they go, trying to see what it is, trying to see if he's going to be able to get that pass done, and it looks like here for the moment that yes, he has. Casey Metzger has no answer, and that is going to be Justin Delano up into P2.
Yeah, another nice pass from Delano. It all came from the mistake from Casey Metzger out the final corner, really. He was way too wide, out on the gravel. His exit onto the front straight was very poor, although Justin Delano's Mercedes arena has been even poorer. Oh, and Metzger goes right up the curb to try and overtake him. Fabian Ponce is quicker than both of them.
Yes, he is. Here we go. What's going to happen as they dive their way down into Valvoline? That is going to be Delano trying to hold it out. Is Metzger going to be able to respond and come down into Ford? No, it doesn't look like it. There they go. Delano holding on to the position.
And that should be it now. I think he's going to have the pace to get away here, Delano, unless Metzger can stay really close through these next half a lap or so, and then get the slipstream down the back straight and the front straight, and maybe there's a chance. But I think Delano should have that place now. James Hebb still trying dives down there at turn 7. And fair play to Drew Neubauer as well, by the way, who's gained a lot of places just by not going off the road for the majority of this race.
Yeah, exactly, and sometimes just taking advantage of others' misfortune is the best way to be able to get on by as they go. But here we watch as Justin Delano is able to hold on to that position, and look at him start to stretch his legs out a little bit more there, Ewan.
Yeah, he is certainly stretching his legs. His pace is just overbearing Metzger's at the moment. It's overpowering his, although Metzger's had a phenomenal final chicane there. That was unbelievable. And he's right up to the back of the Porsche again. He needs a really good exit off of here, though, and Delano's so good at getting the traction out of there. He has got that line perfect, and his exit onto the front straight is immaculate, and there's no way anybody's going to be able to overtake him from here, especially since his straight line speed is not bad for a non-Mercedes as they go down towards turn 1. Metzger was, I thought he was late on the brakes. Well, it turns out he was way too late, and Fabian Ponce is going to have a piece of this now.
Yes, he is, but is he going to be able to respond here a little bit? Looks down to the inside as the track switches back underneath him. That's not going to play out as they go down now into the corner, trying to see what it is. It looks like Metzger's going to at least hold it out, as that's Ponce taking a wider line, a very wide line, all the way up and over onto the AstroTurf as they run. Metzger's going to be able to hold on to that third position for now, but only a minute left to go here in this race.
Only a minute, but it will be the penultimate lap for these drivers, because look at Ouellette. He's going to get round for one more lap. Jonathan Ouellette here. So just under 1 second in the lead of this race, in the battle for the lead. Just over 30 seconds remaining in the race, and we're going to squeeze one more lap into this one now. So he's going to have one more lap to hold on here, is Ouellette, and he's going to take possibly a second race 1 victory in a succession of weeks there, which would be a really remarkable result.
Yes, it would. As we watch here, John Trainer for the team High concert mood. Oh, just getting it wrong there, going down into the Haug hook, and that is going to spin him right around as they go. He's going to have to gather that car back up under him, and it looks like he's going to find himself well down in the order here. But we wide on board with Jonathan Ouellette, who for the last time in this race makes his way out of the Mercedes-Benz Arena section as he works his way down through the corners. Pretty easy as you please here. He's got about a second gap to Harry Wills behind him.
Yeah, he should have enough here. Harry Wills not really able to challenge him. This is the best race from Harry Wills we've seen in the US Championship, at least for a good while now. He's been a little bit off form throughout the last few weeks. He started off, of course, really well, but going back many weeks now, he really has just made some mistakes here and there, gone off the road here and there. But this is one of those races where he's had a really solid and steady race. His pace has not been bad at all either. It's hard to know what would have happened if Sean Campbell was in that top 3, of course, but it's an encouraging race for Harry Wills here, really. You know, as I said, needed a race like this, I think, and a second place is not too bad for him either.
No, certainly not. And crucially there for Harry, it is going to be finding himself ahead of his teammate, or ahead of his main title rival, Sean Campbell. And that is going to be the crucial thing here for him. Now, we'll have to see how that invert is going to shake itself out in the last part of the race. But Ouellette brings the car through the corner. Ooh, I thought for a second that may have been a little bit of team orders there, getting out of the way to allow Harry Wills to take the victory. But I think that was just a little bit of a mistake there from Ouellette.
Wow, a very late mistake from Jonathan Ouellette there. I'd almost stopped looking because I was so sure he was going to win, but in the end, he nearly lost it right on the line there. That was so close between them. We'll see the gap on the line when we get the results a bit later, but that was really close. And Ouellette won by a really close margin in race 1 last week as well, so it's quite fitting, really. But yeah, wow, that was unexpected, but he's very pleased, obviously.
Yeah, very pleased indeed, as here we watch R.A.W.S being able to bring that car out of the final corner, and he once again will take victory in the AM category, minimizing that lead up at the top of the field. The number 79 doing a fantastic job to be able to get his way up forward and avoid a lot of the battles in the back. It looks like Justin Delano there going to be able to come home in P2 after that protracted battle with Casey Metzger. Fabian Ponce only good enough for 4th place.
Yeah, and only good enough for 5th for Braden Melling, who overtook Jeff Carollo on the final lap as well. You can see Florea next over the line. He'll be a couple of laps down, but there it is for Melling. He goes over the line, and he will lose out on points in the championship today. Venkatarazu will gain just 3 there on Delano, and ideally he would have needed to gain a bit more. So that gap will come down to 55 points, but it's still a lot of points. With only 5 races remaining, it's difficult to take 11 points per race off Justin Delano.
Yes, it is only 11 points, but as you know as well as I do, Ewan, we are not done here tonight. We've got one more double-length race coming up right now. That's right, a 50-minute feature race where pit stops will be taken into account. Before we get to that, let's go ahead and run you through the final finishing order here. Jonathan Ouellette able to take victory over Harry Wills and Sean Campbell. Dan Tenorio, Jeremy Littleton, Gary Brown, Dean Timms, and Taylor Lane rounding out your 8-car pro field.
Indeed, and in the AMS it was Shares Venkatarasu just gaining those few points on Justin Delano there with a dominant victory. Casey Metzger wasn't quite able to hold on to second in the end, and Fabian Ponce wasn't quite able to get up onto the podium. Braden Merling overtook Jeff Carollo on the last lap there to get into the top 5. Matthew Plaisance was 7th, ahead of Drew Neubauer. Charles Boschel and James Hebb round out the top 10. Then it was Andrew Hewitt, the last car on the lead lap. Daniel Florea was a couple of laps down, so was Andrew Rasmussen. Brent Brabata and John Trainer both were multiple laps down towards the end, but they did complete enough laps to be able to start on the front row together for race 2.
Yes, they will, and that will bring us to a short break here. We're going to get everything re-racked and restacked before we get ready to go racing for that 50-minute race. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nurburgring. After an event-filled first race, we are ready to take back to the track here around this German circuit for the 50-minute race, the feature race. And this will include a pit stop, which is mandatory over the course of the running. About 3 minutes left to go in practice before we set these cars loose. And you and O'Leary, I am very excited to see if we can maybe get through a little bit of a cleaner race this time around.
Yeah, there were a fair few incidents during the last race, but actually contrary to what we saw in the EU Championship, we saw two very clean races actually through there. Maybe a little bit more messy in race 2, it has to be said, but race 1 was very clean. Here, it may well turn out to be the opposite, let's wait and see, but these are the championship standings coming in.
Yes, they are. You can see there Harry Wills able to minimize that gap just a little bit. Chase Wilson and Dan Tenorio and R.A.W.S still very, very close as they run. Dave Benino and Reese Newburn rounding out the top 10 of that championship. But I'm very intrigued to take a look here at the AM standings. Delano's gap continues to narrow down a little bit more and more, but that close battle there with Shreyas and Braden Mailing still only about 3 points away. Also close battles with Metzger, Carollo, and Heb there. Fowler not out of that conversation as well, in a very close battle between Florea and Ponce. I think this second race is going to be a big, big testing point here to see what will be able to fire off and see if drivers have the endurance to be able to keep it around here, because we saw quite a few drivers have to come down pit lane and get a quick repair.
Absolutely, but the problem is there are no fast repairs here. You got to do it all the manual way, unfortunately, and that's why we saw so many drivers down pit lane and so many drivers taking so long down there. At least 5 had more than a minute's worth of pit stops, and Taylor Lane's stop, well, he didn't even bother taking it in the end. He just retired from the race immediately at the end of lap 1. We were hearing, by the way, from him after the race that, well, we weren't, but he was chatting to everybody else, and I was listening. He apparently didn't get the call that Sean Campbell was on the inside going towards turn 4 there, so that's why it looked like he turned in as if he wasn't there, because he didn't know that he was there. So that would explain a great deal about that incident there. So unlucky really for Taylor Lane, but that's what happens when you rely on a spotter so much in a series like this. You can, especially around that corner. A lot of people are talking about how it's very ambiguous. The spotter there doesn't really seem to know what he's doing for whatever reason. So that may have been the cause for that incident a little bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. That's kind of one of the things there that you have when you talk about those digital spotters that play into everything. But I think the other storyline to follow here in this race is going to be the perceived might of the Mercedes around here. We saw for a long time that those Mercedes obviously up at the top of the charts there in the pro category, and they will make sure that they are able to try to keep themselves ahead. We also saw back in the AM category, Justin Delano having a real hard fight to try to get by one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a little bit surprising from Delano in terms of his qualifying, but his race pace seemed to be pretty good, and he should be able to climb through the field quite well in this race as well, because he seemed to be really quite fast in a straight line, actually, and that's going to be a big help to him here.
Yes, it is, as we have that reverse grid here for race 2. It's going to be Dean Timms lining up in pole position, followed by Gary Brown, Jeremy Littleton, and Dan Tenorio, your top 4. Sean Campbell lines up 5th, followed by Harry Wills, Jonathan Roulette, Taylor Lane, and Matthew Moraes lines up in 9th.
And John Traynor will be taking the lead here in AM, taking the lead off the start. Anyway, Brent Bavatar will be one to watch from second. He crashed out from second during that first race. Andrew Rasmussen will be third alongside the McLaren of Daniel Florea. Andrew Hewitt will be in fifth ahead of Charles Boschel. Then it's going to be Drew Neubauer and Matthew Plaisance on the 4th row together. Fabian Ponce and Casey Metzger on the 5th row, with Justin Delano and Shez Begacharju on that row as well. Jeff Carollo, James Hebb and Braden Melling all find themselves towards the back of the field. Not entirely sure why though, because they all completed more than 50% throughout that race, so they should have been involved in the reverse grid, but it doesn't look like they have been for whatever reason, so I don't know quite why that is, but they're all down the back.
Yeah, not exactly sure about that as well, but we'll have to see what Dean Timms is able to do up at the pointy end of this field as he and Gary Brown lead their way around. Porsche and Mercedes, 2 cars that are very familiar to this Nurburgring Grand Prix layout as they bring their way through here, and we see the staggered grid forming up as it goes. It will be a staggered start here between the pros and the AMs. Gary Brown, though, coming through those final corners, as is Dean Timms, down through the NGK chicane and bringing it around right now. There is one of the men to watch, Harry Wills, as we come through the Coca-Cola curve here. And this long right-hander that leads us onto the start-finish straightaway, getting ready to keep our eyes fixed on Barney the Flagman as we get ready to go green here at the Nürburgring. Getting ready to go, and there we are racing. It's a brilliant start from Dean Timms. He's already got a 0.5 of a second advantage here as they dive down into the first corner. A little bit of side-by-side. That's going to be the Lamborghini of Jeremy Littleton trying to send a little bit down there. Looks like Sean Campbell trying to be a little bit cautious after what happened to him last time out.
Yeah, doesn't need to dive down the inside of absolutely everybody there, Campbell, because he'll be absolutely fine, even if he doesn't, as we all get underway in the AMS as well. It's John Traynor who's getting things underway this time, and also a very good start for him. For whatever reason, the leaders, or the second place drivers, in whatever category they're in, really asleep in these opening moments, as that's off the road for... who is that? Matthew Plaisance, Andrew Hewitt, excuse me, straight off the road down at turn number 1, but for the most part, everybody's got through turn 1 cleanly.
Yeah, oh, that was very, very close there. Here comes a little bit of a look there for Bravada, trying to be able to get to the inside of Traynor, and that is going to be a move as easy as you please there for him. Good crossover there for the BMW driver.
Nice defence and overtake there indeed by Bravada to be able to make his way through into the lead, and we'll see how long and if at all he can hold on to it. However, Sheris Venkatarazu has already got up to 5th place. Not entirely sure how he's managed that, but either way, he has made great progress in these opening moments, as so has championship leader, I should say, Sean Campbell, 5th place right now with 3 cars, very close to him right now, and should be able to dispatch them pretty quickly, although Harry Wills is one of them, so that'll be a little bit more difficult, but he's made good progress on lap 1 here.
Yes, he has, as they bring their way up through the corner right now. Will's trying to be able to get his way up ahead, but he's got a carpet there in the back. That's Taylor Lane having a little bit of a problem. Very lucky to save it from the kitty litter there on the outside of the Coca-Cola curve, and back down in the AM category. Drew Neubauer looking like he got a little bit sideways there, as that's going to be Justin Delano taking advantage.
Yeah, straight around the outside of turn 12 and straight through there for Delano, as straight through for Wills as well on Gary Brown. Sean Campbell's going to try and follow through. Gary Brown very much drifts up into him. Campbell has to go very wide, and he's going to really be careful not to get involved in an incident down here as well. More contact with Gary Brown, and finally Campbell's going to have it done now, surely through turn 4. He will do, but that was a very nervy pass, and one that Campbell will be glad he doesn't have to repeat.
Yes, it will, but looks like a little bit of a fight back there, as here is R.A.W.S working his way up through the field right now, getting by Charles Bushell down to the inside on the Olympus Esports driver, and that's going to be the pretty okay-ish motorsports driver, able to get that done very, very easily, and he is already gaining massive amounts of positions on a few of his rivals, and that is huge. Delano still bogged down in 17th place right now, as it looks like Gary Brown continues to lose positions there to Ouellette up at the top of the field.
Ouellette also making progress, not as used to making his way through in the reverse grid race as the likes of Harry Wills and Sean Campbell, who have done it multiple times all season long. As Jeremy Littleton just, well, I'm not sure whether that was a defence or whether he got out of the way of Harry Wills there. I think he mainly got out of the way of him, to be honest, into turn 11 there, and now he's going to try and get in the way of Sean Campbell however he can. Yeah, he just got out of the way here, really.
Yeah, flash the headlights, and let's remember here that these are 2 Twisted Team Racing drivers, so there could be a little bit of team communication going there in between the two. Harry Wills, though, it has to be said, doing a little bit of flirting with disaster up on the curbs there, as here comes Campbell looking down to the inside of Littleton, and Littleton, a little bit of understeer there is going to force him wide around the outside of the corner, and that's going to send Campbell right on through.
All he had to do there was just make Littleton look in his mirrors, make him miss his braking point into the final corner. That's exactly what happened, and now Campbell has the control. He's able to defend here as well, down the inside, and he will have that place, and he'll try and make sure that Jonathan Ouellette can't follow through either. So that was nice work from Sean Campbell. Didn't dive it down the inside through the final corner maliciously and get involved in an incident. He just put Littleton off enough to shove the Lamborghini offline so that he could go on through, as Taylor Lane looks like he's actually out of the race now.
Yeah, I think he is, or is he? Yeah, he is out of the race, not even being shown us down pit lane, but here is Matthew Plaisance in that Ferrari taking a look down to the inside of Charles Bushell in that Mercedes, but here comes a look from Fabian Ponce. We know that BMW driver can be aggressive. He's going to have to be sending a big move down to the inside, looking for that 2-for-1. Plaisance is going to try to hold it out a little bit, and Justin Delano is going to slip through as well, as that is going to be Bushell losing 3 positions in the course of 2 corners. A little bit of a heartbreak there for the Olympus Esports driver, but definitely a good battle shaping itself up there as Ponce trying to put the move through on the exit of the Mercedes arena.
Great exit there from Delano, who gained on both of them going side by side. Nearly took it 3 wide. He's certainly down the inside of Ponce side contact. Ponce is going to go off the road. Be careful coming back on. Straight back on again. There's almost nothing you can do controlling the car on the grass like that. And luckily, Boschel had the presence of mind to avoid him, and so did Delano as well. This was so dangerous, but not a lot that anybody could have really done. There's not a lot you can do if you're Fabian Ponce in this position here.
No, I mean, you're out onto the grass. You can't really get the car stopped. You can't really turn the car at all, so it's very, very difficult to be able to do anything, and now he's going to find himself under a little bit of attack. Speaking of an attack, though, Jeremy Littleton as well as Gary Brown and Marias there as they go down through the corners, and that's going to be Dan Tenorio there in the Mercedes looking to maybe pounce here as well as they cross over the start-finish line with about 6 minutes gone here in this race. Is anybody going to have a poke going down into the Howe Cook? It looks like Brown's going to think about it, but he's going to be too far back to get the move done on Littleton, but Plaisance and Delano we're going to go side by side, and Delano up and on through.
Yeah, straight through there, no problems at all for Justin Delano. He's up inside the top 5 already. This is exactly what he needed as well. He's just tailing Cheris Venkatarasu as well, and still with over 40 minutes in this race, plenty of time to maybe go and catch him as well in this race if he wants to, but also he's putting points into Braden Melling here as well, who's having a bit of a disaster here today, down at the moment in 21st overall. That is where is that? 13th maybe, I think, in the AM category right now. It's not a good day for Braden Melling, but it's not a world-beating day for Justin Delano, but it doesn't need to be. It's absolutely solid, and he's doing just enough right now.
Yeah, it certainly is here as we keep our eyes focused on that little battle up in the pro category, and that is Gary Brown moving this way, moving that way, trying to find something to be able to hold off in the back. As up at the front of the field, I can tell you that Harry Wills has been able to get by Dean Timms for the lead of the race. I think that may have been another little bit of an orchestrated move here.
Yep. It certainly was. Harry Wills flashing the lights to as a thanks almost, and John Campbell nearly tries to get through as well, nearly gets straight through as well there. Dean Timms going to do as much defending as he possibly can here to try and slow Campbell down, who's just so strong through that final chicane, and he really does get into your head going towards the final corner. He makes sure he's done that so he can get a great exit on you out of this turn, and towards turn 1 he's going to have you on toast by the looks of things. We'll see if he's going to be able to make it down the inside. Well, he's struggling here because the Mercedes is so strong.
Yeah, really is, but he may be able to make this work, get later on to the binders, and that's exactly what Sean Campbell is able to do. Was that contact there behind between Timms and Ouellette?
I think it was Timms actually just trying to get an undercut, and he tried to do the switchback so much, or he tried to turn in so sharply, he actually nearly spun himself around completely. In the end, it was just a really big slide that he lost quite a lot of time from, but Ouellette did get very close as well. There wasn't contact though.
All right, so no contact there, and now the battle is on between Harry Wills and Sean Campbell at the front of the field. Are they going to be able to get themselves into a little bit of a scrap here? Can Sean Campbell do what he has done multiple times over the course of this season and get that move set on the number 95? We will have to wait and see as they plunge their way towards the hairpin right now. Not looking like anything's going to fire off here at the moment.
And we've seen this so many times, Harry Wills versus Sean Campbell here in this race, in this championship I should say. We've just been at each other for this entire season really. In race 2s that we've had so far, so 7 race 2s in this season so far, the 2 of them have finished 1 and 2 in whichever order 3 times so far. As off the road there for Daniel Florea, just in front of John Traynor there. It looked like he was on his own, just got onto the grass ever so slightly going towards turn 6. Didn't even seem under pressure really, but just went straight off the road and straight spinning off into the gravel there.
Yeah, just way off there as we look out the back here of Harry Wills, and there you can see that menacing RSR by butt kicker Lamborghini starting to close in behind as they work their way through the Coca-Cola curve right now. That Lambo getting a good blast out of the corner, closing in behind. A little bit of the draft here is certainly going to come into play right now. Is Campbell going to have a look down to the inside? That number 26 growing larger and larger. Yes, he is! He's going to dive down to the inside. Can Wills be able to cover it off as they come down through the corner right now, side by side? It doesn't look like Campbell's going to be able to get the overlap, and Wills is going to hold on for the moment.
Oh, for the moment, but if this is already happening only 10 minutes into this race, you've got to fear for Harry Wills in terms of his hopes of holding on to this race lead throughout, because this is already a lot of pressure. Sean Campbell already looking so much stronger than Harry Wills in this race, so much quicker out there at the moment. And so it's going to be a very long race for Harry Wills at this rate. There's so much time for Campbell to plan and execute this move.
Yeah, plenty of time. It looks like he's already thinking about it there as they dive their way down the hill right now, headed towards Valvoline. Is this going to be a little bit of a move? Excuse me, that's into Dunlop, and there around the outside goes Campbell, trying to send things around the long way around, using that banking to his advantage. He's going to have a little bit of an advantage there coming into the Michael Schumacher-esque, but Wills is going to be able to defend well and keep him at bay. But look at that momentum in the Lamborghini.
So close everywhere at the moment, still looking down the inside. He's not going to make it into turn number 11, not really a big enough braking zone for this. And so the only hope Harry Wills really has got is Jonathan Ouellette closing in and making Campbell's life difficult by sandwiching him a little bit in the middle of a bit of a fight here. That's the only hope that Wills has got, because on his own he stands no chance.
No, he certainly doesn't. As Campbell is looking aggressive and looking very, very strong here. Brings that car a little bit wider there on the exit of the NGK chicane. As again, they come down through the Coca-Cola curve. 10 minutes gone in this race. Still about 49 minutes left to go. Campbell closer than he's ever been before. The gap is under 1/10 of a second as they streak over the line. Is this going to be a little bit of a defense here from Harry Wills? Whoa! Big dive to the inside for Campbell.
Almost lost control going down the inside there. Wills gives him the room, but there's just able to stay a bit tighter on the line. There was Campbell on the exit. Due to that Lamborghini, he's able to swing wider here through turn 2, make it in through turn 3 as well. But Wills is just going to shove him out and get in front of that Lamborghini now. So he is defending very well, and Campbell has got to be careful that this doesn't go on for too long so he doesn't get entirely stuck. But I can't see that happening really. He's just probing for that move, and one of these times down in towards turn number 1, sure it's going to pay off, or even somewhere else.
I'm sure it will as well, as they continue to go here, fighting tooth and nail all the way around, all the way through, trying to see what they are able to do, as now they dive down into the Dunlop hairpin. And what this has really allowed to do, as you sort of hinted at before, is now Ouellette maybe being able to close in behind here a little bit in that 27. Is he going to be able to play a little bit of spoiler here to this front battle?
Try to, and I think this is exactly what Harry Wills needs, because he can't have all the attention on him. He can't have all the focus of Sean Campbell being directed onto crafting a move ahead of him right now. He's got to get half of Sean Campbell's mind, or at least some of it, onto defending from Jonathan Ouellette at the moment. But even at this distance, it's not doing enough to occupy Sean Campbell's mind. He's fully focused on trying to get this lead before he gets himself into this situation. He's so close, and once again he's going to try and do his famous old trick into the final chicane. Fake a bit of a move, make sure Harry Wills takes a tight line, which gives him a bad exit, and this Lamborghini just able to use its main strength there through a corner like that to really get a nice exit, get a nice slipstream here, and maybe have a dive, although it's not quite as close as he was last lap.
No, it doesn't. Let's see if we see another breakneck move down to the inside. Yes, he does go for it, as they're side by side. Again, he gives a little bit of a pinch there to Harry Wills, this time trying to cover off that momentum from the Mercedes. But Wills is going to have the inside line here for the next 2 corners. Is that going to be enough for Campbell? He does look like he's a little bit farther ahead as they now dive through the second part of the Mercedes Arena section. It's going to favor back to Sean Campbell, but momentum could favor out to Harry Wills here. They are still breakneck as they come down into Valvoline right now, working into the corner, trying to see what they are going to do. Is that momentum for Campbell? Yes, it is!
Straight round the outside there, using the Lamborghini perfectly. It looks so planted through a corner like that at turn 6, even on the outside line, and it was enough to overhaul Harry Wills, who might even have another go into the hairpin. He won't decide to go now, but I have a feeling he does have to at least challenge Campbell very soon, or otherwise he's going to see the race lead and the race win go up the road very quickly, even so early on in this race.
certainly will, and we're going to have to see if he's able to streak off into the distance here, as he has been able to do on multiple accounts. Ouellette maybe having a little bit of a look down to the inside there of his teammate as they go, but not sure if this is going to be able to play out right now as they dive down through the corner. We're going to go back and take a look at this replay. This is Matthew Plaisance, a blinking Porsche there, or blinking Mercedes rather, up ahead of him, and looks like Plaisance brings the car down into the corner, just put too much steering lock into that car.
Yeah, and well, there might have been contact. There were so many cars around, it's difficult to know, really. But certainly a spin towards turn 1 as R.A.W.S is having a decent race here. As he only joined us for race 2, unfortunately couldn't be here for race 1, but he really did have to battle from the very back of the field here today. Already up to 6th, but he's trying to work his way through on Jeremy Littleton right now as well. He's so close to the back of that Lamborghini, but he's not able to hide much in that big BMW. Down the inside, he's going to go, and he's going to attempt to make his way up inside the top 5. It looks like with a nice move late on the brakes, he will indeed be in that top 5 place now.
Yes, he will. But it always scares me a little bit there as they go down into turn 1 and seeing them run as wide as they do. You forget sometimes that you can carry all of that momentum down through the corner. But right now, we check back in on Brent Bravada, your leader in the AM category. He's got about a 2.5-second lead over R.A.W.S right now. That's a good gap. And R.A.W.S doesn't really look like he's been able to close it down. And that's really not something we've been able to say over the last couple of rounds.
Really, but Vegas Charles, you're just still looking in pretty good control of this race, even from this distance, as Jonathan Ouellette makes his way through, and Harry Wills. I think there might have been a mistake from Wills, unless there was a bit of a orchestration going on between the two. Just Wills saying to Ouellette, well, you probably have a better chance of closing on Sean Campbell here, so you might as well go in front of me right now, and that might be what happened in the end, but I do think it's too late for the both of them. I find it hard to believe that Sean Campbell is going to be pegged back in this race now without problems, even this early on.
Yeah, certainly is here as Campbell working his way forward. And one of the other things we're going to have to talk about here potentially is a little bit of lap traffic that they could be coming up on. Remember, this is a 50-minute race, double what we had the first time around, so is that going to change things? But I've got to give credit there to Harry Wills being able to keep in close behind. We focus on another good battle here, though. This is Fabian Ponce. Casey Metzger may be trying to close down right now on Ponce in 5th place.
Absolutely. It's close between these two right now, but they're getting left behind by the likes of Delano. They were fighting with him earlier, and they were fighting with him in race 1, let's not forget as well, but leaving it being left behind by Delano entirely, and now in this race, who could well be on his way to yet another podium here, so that's going to be a little bit demoralising, and I do think, judging by the pace on last race at the very least, Fabian Ponce may well have the measure of Casey Metzger here, and you can see it with the certainly definitive car lengths you can see between these two drivers at the moment.
Yeah, certainly is, as we have something we haven't really had here in the past about hour of this running. Ewan has just a little bit of calm, but just like that, quick as you please, we've got a battle here starting to shape itself up. Jeremy Littleton leading the way right now for 5th place in the number 31 Lamborghini. Marias behind him in the BMW. Is he going to be able to send a little bit of a move there into the left-hander? Doesn't quite look like it, but he's going to line himself up, try to carry more momentum through the second part.
It wasn't a great run, though. He had a chance there, did Moraes, but he got up on that curb and got up on that grass through turn 7, and that does not give you a good run down towards the hairpin at all there. So Dan Tenorio is going to be invited to this one as well as the fact Moraes is not going to be able to make his way through. So this is now all the more exciting for a free-car battle here between these drivers, and a little bit surprised to see Moraes was able to, or had to give up that 5th place once again, because I thought he had that place pretty settled there, but it looks like he has not, and going wide a bit again now. He's having to do all this work all over again now.
Yeah, gonna have to do it all over again right here as they go, waiting to see if we're gonna see a little bit of a pop-off here from Moraes, maybe going down into the final couple of corners here, or if it's gonna be a traditional place that we've seen it most times. Earlier onto the binders there was the BMW driver. Looked like he was backing up the corner a little bit, maybe trying to get a better attack there at Littleton, and indeed, it looks like he's all over the back right now as they come through the final parts.
He's very close, although Dan Tenorio is not too far behind him. We know he's pretty quick from his pace in the first race. Could have even finished on the podium on another day, so we'll see where he ends up. No, he's not going to go for it here. And Littleton even defending when he didn't really need to there, and he's been put off slightly. Goes a bit deep, And R.A.W.S is going to get a different line, but he's not going to be able to get through here. Just slowly working on a move here. Maybe down the inside of turn 3. No, it's too early for that kind of thing. So we are starting to see a bit of a settling down. Nearly 20 minutes into this one now, edging towards the pit stop phase. And anybody who just come in now for fuel will be able to make it to the end, but don't expect to see anybody in just yet. We're likely going to see this fight rumble on for a little while, really. But R.A.W.S is taking a bit of a calmer approach here, looking to try and make his move through calmly rather than just firing it down the inside.
Yes, it is. Is that calmness starting to descend here a little bit up in that top 3. Able to get by Wills, and things starting to play themselves out here as they go. Oh, was that a little bit of a mistake from R.A.W.S? Yes, it was. Tenorio able to get by him there. That was a mistake coming out of the Dunlop hairpin.
Yeah, could have just outbraked himself, but you never know. Because let's not forget and remember back to race 1 where Fabian Ponce hit the back of Justin Delano into the Dunlop hairpin. R.A.W.S had Dan Tenorio right behind him at that moment, so was there a bit of contact between the two? Or was it just an outbraking move from the BMW that he just got very wrong as Braden Melling makes his way finally inside the top 10 for the AMS now on his bit of recovery.
Yeah, a bit of a recovery drive there from Mailing, as you said. Plaisance trying to close in behind him, but right up in front as of right now, that is Daniel Florea, who's had a little bit of an up-and-down race as well. And Florea hoping to be able to categorize on a good run. They've got a good line up ahead of them, though. Only about 2 seconds up the road to Jeff Carollo, so plenty of time here to be able to try to get that back in.
There is still quite a lot of time left in this race, nearly half an hour, but as I mentioned, the pit stop phase very much open, and R.A.W.S might be taking advantage of that right now, or is he? No, he's not making a drive through. That would be quite ludicrous 20 minutes in. He's making a pit stop already, and I don't mind this call at all. He was behind these two, Littleton and Tenorio, and he was going to be stuck there for a little while, and he wasn't going to be going any quicker, so why not come in, make a bit of a stop? 9 seconds, that's perfect in terms of time. Unfortunately for him, he's going to come out behind Brent Bravatar and Shez Venkatarazu, who are fighting for the AM win and AM lead at the moment, which might just slow him down ever so slightly. However, if he dispatches of them pretty quickly and gets in a bit of clean air, then this strategy could pay off quite nicely.
Yeah, it could play out quite nicely, as we've seen just what can happen with those drivers that get bottled up a little bit in the field and the inability to pass, particularly on the second half of the circuit, that they lose a lot of time. So if they're able to make that move work, I'm right there with you, Ewan, that they will certainly be able to pull themselves ahead and be able to do that. But as we tick closer and closer here to the halfway point in this race, it's going to be interesting to see who is going to be able to go a little bit longer here, make things work out just a little bit, and try to maybe do that overcut to achieve, frankly, the same goal.
Yeah, it's difficult to know really, because of course when you get the overcut, you are running out on lower fuel. If you really run that tank dry, then you've got a lighter car and you're running that tank low on fuel. However, we did see almost to a surprising effect, the undercut was really working in the EU Championship earlier on for race 2. Even with a lot of AM traffic that we were just talking about there, we saw Thomas Reiter even gain places despite losing a lot of time in AM battles. So that was pretty surprising, and it is going to be a big effect here, but it just remains to be seen how much note these guys will have taken of that. Even those who raced in it, like Sean Campbell and Harry Wills and Dean Timms out in the top 5 or so, those guys raced in it, but how much note will they have taken of it? I suppose different race situation calls for different race tactics.
Exactly. You'll just have to see what plays out, as maybe we'll see a little bit of that strange strategy starting to play through. Watching here, Daniel Florea at the lone McLaren in the field as he tries to close down on Jeff Carollo up ahead of him in that white and yellow Lamborghini as they come now down into the sweeping NGK chicane, trying to see if they're able to carry a little bit more speed. Who's going to be able to get this move done? Only 0.3 of a second separating the two. Looks like Florea takes a little bit of a wider exit there out of the corner. Is that going to slow him down a little bit? Yes, it is. He lost about 1/10 and a half.
Did, and it's not a particular strength of the McLaren really there. Just want to get it onto the straight and then use that straight line speed and very late under brakes. And you see how that might be able to work for Florea, getting his way down the inside of Carollo, but not on this occasion. His exit off of the final corner was just not good enough on that occasion, so he's just going to have to wait a little bit. Yeah, we'll see where he can get to. Carollo a little bit wide through turn 3. Maybe there's a chance here for Florea, but it's so difficult especially into turn 6 and 7. It's not really a corner that will suit the McLaren very well at all. Normally just fighting that car for oversteer. He's even had a little bit of a look up there, returning to the scene of his spin about 20 minutes ago. Not able to make his way through on Corolla just for the moment.
And not able to get it done there as he goes, but he's got a good run coming down to the Dunlop hairpin. Is that going to be the move? Yes, it is. Flames spitting out the back of the McLaren, and that has all gone to naught there for Florea. Too much oomph, too much speed down into the corner, and the McLaren once again finds itself pointed the wrong way on the track.
Yeah, just slightly too committed into the Dunlop hairpin there. He really did go for it later on the brakes, but it was just too much. He couldn't hold on to it. The McLaren couldn't deal with it, and he's not down tonight because he still is in that same position, but he's lost a whole lot of time, and Brendan Merling will be looking to get through on him fairly soon, as these two really haven't got any further away or closer together since we last left them.
Yes, it is, and there comes a little bit of a move. That's going to be Casey Metzger down to the inside, coming through the final hairpin, and a good move there for the Mercedes driver, being able to get himself up on forward. I can tell you, by the way, that Marias has come down pit lane here at this point, so another driver opting to go for a little bit of an undercut.
Yeah, looking to try and get that at the moment. Where is he still in relation to those? He's in again here. That was a drive-through penalty. He didn't stop there. He didn't stop. So that was a drive-through penalty. I didn't even notice he came in, but that was a drive-through penalty from Moraes. Surely that would suggest he's gotten to 25 incident points, but in only 26 minutes, that's an astonishing achievement to get up to, and I found that almost difficult to believe, but I suppose he might have done.
I have to agree with you there, Ewan. You've got to be really, really going aggressive around this circuit to pick up just that many incident points here. But, yeah, I guess that is what it was. We talked a little bit earlier about Brent Bravata being able to hold that out, to hold that gap over Shreyas right now. Well, Shreyas Betsbaratage right now pulling that gap in. It is at about 0.5 of a second. Could we see that this will be able to get a little bit closer?
Well, I suppose it possibly could do very soon, but hard to know. For the moment, Brent Bravata he's going to have a really tall job in his hands here, holding back Venkatarajan for this entire race. I mean, I'm not even sure Venkatarajan will wait around to do this on the road. He might even come into pit lane and just do it that way instead, really. But hopefully we do see an on-track pass. Either way, I don't think Bravata is going to be able to hold on for all of these laps. No, he's at first race in the series, of course, first round in the series, and see a lot of ambition. And he's pretty quick as well, qualified very nicely. Didn't have a great race one, but he's certainly showing his pace right now. I don't think he's going to have enough for Venkatarajan here.
I don't think he's really going to be able to hold that off. I have to agree with you there, but it has been a good race here for Bravata. And I mean, let's keep an eye on the rest of that field there. Looking back there, a 9.6 second advantage for these two drivers, and that is a lot of Bravata being able to pull that away. So a very, very impressive run.
Number of impressive runs, really, from a number of drivers, but again, we're starting to get to that point in the season where those who are really up towards the front in the standings are really reoccurring quite a lot now. We're seeing it less so in the in the EU Championship, particularly in the AMPOT. Again and again, we keep getting surprises now and again. But in the US Championship, it's certainly starting to filter out. Even in the more unpredictable AM Championship, we're starting to see the likes of Venkatarajan and Delano and Metzger, and also Brendan Merling, who's a little bit further down right now. They're always reoccurring to the top, week in, week out, and it's why Delano's got a bit of a lead in the standings right now. But yeah, it also does just signal that we are getting towards the back end of this championship. We are getting deep into this one at the moment, because we're starting to see some people really start to finish in very similar places week in, week out at this stage.
Yeah, we certainly are. We're getting used to seeing those drivers in those positions. As right now, Dean Timms is the latest to come down pit lane here with about 29 minutes down in the race, the number 46. This doesn't look like a drive-through. I'm pretty sure this is a scheduled stop there for the Twisted Racing Team driver as he comes down into the pits, and we keep our eyes focused right now on that battle up in the AM category.
Yeah, Bravata's still doing enough right now. And Venkatarajan nowhere near close enough to really apply the pressure. And the way that Sean Campbell was early, you saw how quickly he got really on the bumper of the car in front, and that really applies the pressure. It forces mistakes, it allows you to get into the head. and it allows you to eventually craft a move, but at the moment, Venkataraju's not doing that. He's just staying within half a second, which is certainly close enough to get a slipstream. It's certainly close enough for you to think about it, but Bravatar at the moment, if he's obviously very level-headed and very calm at this stage, which you'd expect him to be, then you would certainly expect him to not really be worrying about that car just in behind, not really close enough. And so it's difficult to see this changing for the moment.
And I think if you are R.A.W.S here at this point, you just want to apply pressure, see if you can force an error, and maybe wait to be able to make that overtake until after pit stop. So I don't really think that is going to be too much of anything, as this is Jeff Carollo right here as he works his way through. That is Marias up ahead of him. Remember, Marias serving that drive-through penalty a little bit earlier, finding himself all the way back down in the order here. So that is not a battle for position in class necessarily, but also let's take a look here at Sean Campbell up at the front of the field, 1.9 seconds ahead of Ouellette, really starting to pull away. And look at that, Harry Wills a full 5 seconds behind these two.
And by the way, Dean Timms has come into the pit lane for a very long stop here. I thought he was trying to do an undercut, but he's clearly not. He's struggling at the moment to get that car repaired, or something is going wrong. He keeps exiting and then re-entering the car again, for whatever reason as well. So I don't know what that's all about, but yeah, for whatever reason, he's come down pit lane. So we're still not really seeing any legitimate undercuts from any of these drivers, because Moraes can't really count either after his drive-through penalty.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what that is as well. So everybody looking for that overcut here. Here is R.A.W.S being able to come down into the corner right now. Still just holding that gap. I think that's probably the best term to use here at this point, that he definitely doesn't want to try to push too hard, does the 79 driver, just holding on to it.
Just for now, but you can see the pressure mounting. This is a different battle to what we saw even a lap ago. With Venkataraju really staying an arm's length away. He's now starting to apply that a little bit more, and you can just see that in the way that Bravatar's car just behaving ever so slightly. You certainly know that he's glancing in the mirrors a little bit more now. His lines are not quite as refined as they were before, and a little bit more ragged, so Venkataraju really having to, or really starting to get into the mind of Bravatar in front and apply a pressure a little bit more, which is obviously helping him greatly. It's losing them both a little bit of time, but it doesn't matter really. This pass surely is coming very soon.
Yeah, certainly will be. Here is Harry Wills. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Harry getting a little bit squirrely there coming out of that final corner. Oh, and this is as a result of a spin. He was off and off kilter really all through that lap, skipping over the NGK chicane. Frankly, lucky he didn't get an unsafe pit entry there as a result of that.
Oh dear, Moraes has not had a good time of things there either through the Dunlop hairpin. But yeah, it was very weird for Wills, and he smashed both of those sausage curbs on the inside of the corner, by the way, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't have any damage. And the way that car was behaving through the final corner didn't look good either. Let's see, into turn number one. Well, that was too late on the brakes, you could see that happening. And around goes Harry Wills. I mean, to be honest, I know these cars do have traction control. I'm not convinced Harry Wills really has traction control turned up very high, because he is constantly spinning those rear wheels, no matter whether he's in a straight line or not. So I'm not convinced, but yeah, he's struggling right now. There's no doubt about that as Justin Delano comes in.
All right, and this is what we assume to be the scheduled stops for the time as everybody coming on down in. Looks like there we've got some lap traffic getting out of the way of the leaders right now, as Wills now finds himself losing out on that podium position. He's dropped all the way down to 4th place. Dan Tenorio able to get on by him. And Wills only has about 9/10 of a second ahead of Jeremy Littleton in that Twisted Racing Team Lamborghini. So Wills certainly in a world of trouble here, and that car's still just looking all over the place.
Yeah, but this is how he tends to drive, so I'm not too concerned with the way this is behaving now, because especially on the exits of corners, he really does kick the rear out from time to time. Well, from time to time, I mean all the time, of course. But yeah, I mean, It's not a driving style I would enjoy, certainly. Just throwing that car from side to side, it doesn't look like he's having much fun either. Oh dear me, he slides again, and Jeremy Littleton has to avoid. Now he's right in the middle of the road, and straight through there was one of the cars, and now he doesn't know where to go. Gary Brown goes through as well. Yeah, Will's really now struggling in this car.
Yeah, really and truly just having a hard time, and I've got to agree with that decision to be able to come down pit lane there to try to just blunt some of that problem. We focus back in on the battle for the AM lead. Let's see if either of these leaders come to down pit lane. Doesn't look like they are. They're going to stay out and keep going here and keep working their way around, kicking up a little bit of dirt there on the exit of the Coca-Cola curve.
Now this is the chance for Venkatarajan. I thought he would wait for the pit stop cycle for this to just get him into the front without having to do anything almost. But he wants to take it on the road instead. Late on the brakes into turn 1, and he should be able to get it through. Bravatar tried the over and under, but when you go so shallow on that corner there's such a drop on the inside of the corner that you completely bottom out and you almost take a bit of a jump. And so you were never going to get the exit there, and Venkatarajan does take the lead, and it might well be a lead that he takes to the line now.
Yeah, I've got to think here that momentum is certainly favoring him as we focus on the eyes on the leader of your race right now, Sean Campbell. He has been able to get by a few drivers there, still able to be within touching distance of Roulette here. I've got to give credit there to Jonathan of keeping in touch. 35 minutes, let's call it 36 minutes down in the race, though, and they're going to have to start dealing with a little bit of lapped traffic, as it looks like, speaking of lapped traffic, that is going to be Harry Wills potentially going a lap down.
Yeah, it looks like it. A lot of cars in the pit lane now from the pro category, and I'm not convinced Dean Timms or Harry Wills will re-emerge actually from the pit lane. Because Dean Timms, did he do enough laps to get classified? Yes, with 15. Or did he? Oh, he's going to be close. I think he did do just enough to possibly get classified in this race, and Harry Wills certainly has as well. So in terms of points, they will both get points, and I think they'll be absolutely fine in that respect. But I'm not entirely convinced we're going to be seeing them come back out the pit lane again in this race. Unfortunately, we may well be down to only 5 pros now.
Yeah, we certainly will, as that pit stop for Dean Timms is now lengthened up into about 8 minutes of time, and Harry Wills is stationary for about 2.5 minutes of time, so lots and lots of drivers there. Florea, the latest flirting with disaster there as he tries to close in on the back of Braden Mayling. Whoa, that car not looking healthy.
Oh yeah, the flames in the back of the car there indicate that he was lifting off around the kink at turn 13 there, which is very unnatural. Daniel Florea, for whatever reason, really taking things easy as Mayling comes into the pit. Wow, and he nearly ends up in the wall there, just Mayling on his way in. But this is, you can see Florea just testing the steering out. Something's not right with this McLaren at the moment, because he doesn't look in as much control of that car as he was earlier.
No, he certainly does not. That car just not looking well. Let's see here for Mayling as he comes to rest in the pit box, able to get on those marks nice and easy. Here is Campbell coming around. Looks like neither he nor Jonathan Roulette are opting to come down into pit lane, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of this race, so we may have to see some drivers opting to be able to get those stops here relatively soon as Campbell runs around. Interestingly, Roulette was faster by about 1/10 of a second on that last lap.
Yeah, I mean, he's not showing bad pace at all, Roulette. There's no question about that. And this is his probably strongest showing, I would say, in terms of actual pace that he's actually had so far this season. But the problem is, while he's very quick, he's just not that much quicker than Sean Campbell at the moment. I mean, they're both so evenly matched. We saw this in qualifying. They were really close together. They could have even been within 1/10, actually. I think it may have been a couple of tenths in the end, but when you are only that ever so slightly quicker than the driver in front, it's very, very difficult to make big inroads on them. And we're seeing that right now with Roulette. It's very, very difficult for him to gain big chunks of time on Sean Campbell when there's not much time in it, as we see Littleton and Brown now both coming down pit lane.
Yeah, multiple drivers opting to be able to come on in here. Shreyas staying out in front. He's been able to keep that gap relatively large here, although as he works his way around right now, trying to see what he's able to do. Gary Brown, the latest to come in and out of the pits.
So only 3 remaining from Pro to come in, and a whole load of them in Amp still to come in. It's allowed Shreyas Venkatarajan to get up to 4th place overall, which is pretty remarkable. But it's not quite a fair reflection on everybody because there's been quite a few stops. Once again, despite this being a very fuel-thirsty circuit, surprised to see these drivers going so far. We saw this in the EU Championship as well. Nearly 40 minutes into this one now, we still haven't seen the leaders in, but now finally they do, because you've got to expect they're running out of fuel at this point.
I was going to say, I've got to imagine here that at this point, those tanks are just about as dry as can be, as we see Campbell and Ouellette both coming down pit lane. I'm going to be interested to hear, Ewan, if this is indeed the absolute end of the pit stop window, and we see all drivers coming down at this point.
I think it is, based on what we saw a few hours ago at the EU Championship. It's going to be very interesting to see the pit stop times of Campbell and Ouellette, because Sean Campbell had a slightly longer stop than everybody in the EU Championship. His stop was 17 seconds, which is way longer than it needed to be. But this one is way shorter, only 9 seconds. It's shorter than Jonathan Ouellette's as well, and so he's going to even add to his lead by 1 second.
Absolutely brilliant stuff there to be able to pull away like that, and there he goes back onto the loud pedal as he gets back going. There is Dan Tenorio coming into pit lane. He is going to be back out and on his way. And credit there to Ouellette. Oh, as that's Florea around.
It is, oh dear, out the final, out the Dunlop corner, I should say. Dunlop hairpin. See what happened. Oh my word, that's so weird. And that's got to be a technical. Because you saw the connection a little fast there as well. There has to be a technical problem going on there with Florea, and I think that is half of the story, why his car is behaving so wildly at the moment.
Yeah, as that flash would indicate some kind of internet connection there, and I wonder if he had a hardware malfunction as well. As we watch Casey Metzger, by the way, coming on down to pit lane. We are only waiting here for Shreyas, Fabian Ponce, Plaisance, and Florea to still make their pit stops. What I was saying there, before we saw that car going off there, before we saw Florea off, Campbell and Ouellette still coming in at about the same gap, and indeed now, through the last couple of corners there, Ouellette's been able to actually close in by about 0.4 of a second, so we may have a race on our hands here.
We may do. I still think it's difficult for Jonathan Ouellette to get involved here with Sean Campbell. I mean, there's 5 laps to go and we get to the line. Plenty of time for him to make up that, but I'm not entirely convinced whether Ouellette will be able to get there or not. Of course, it would be great to see a leading fight between these two finally. However, it is just it's just difficult. 1.4 seconds is... You can't underestimate how big of a margin that is and how difficult it is to close when you're at this level already. Let's not forget, these guys' fastest laps of the race so far, they're in the mid-52s at their very peak. In qualifying, they were in the 51s. You know, this is properly quick for both of these drivers. And when you're at this level, when you're going so quickly, it is difficult physically. The cars physically will only let you go so fast, and we really are reaching the upper reaches of that now. And it's almost, even if you're the best driver in the world, it's almost impossible to squeeze any more out of it.
Yeah, it certainly is. And when you get down into those areas where you are pushing that hard, you are talking about absolutely infinitesimal parts of a second. They're down into the hundredths, down into the thousandths. And if you are able to wring those away on a consistent basis, that is going to be absolutely mega for you. By the way, we are seeing Shreyas and Fabian Ponce both coming down pit lane. John Trainer in as well, and Jeff Carollo. So that is going to be the entire field having made their pit stops.
And let's see if Vegatari is going to come out in the lead here. Because, oh, where's he gone? Bravatar's gone completely. We haven't. He's been there for 6.5 minutes, and we haven't noticed at all for whatever reason. Again, in the last, almost entirely, it's happened again about 3/4 of the way through the race for the second race in a row. He's just gone straight back to the pit lane with no obvious cause, and yeah, unfortunately doesn't look like he's going to finish this race now.
Well, and it seems to be a problem there that's plaguing the entirety of the Twisted Racing team. I mean, Bravada, Willis, Timms, all of them just still sitting down pit lane at this point. I've never seen anything like this, Ewan.
It's very bizarre. I think it is a coincidence that it is a coincidence that they're all on the same team. But it does look like there was an accident here for Brent Bravatar. this is a technical fault. Oh, and he
Yep.
slams straight into the wall, and there's even suspension damage there. Big suspension damage on the BMW. You can just see there that there was a big technical fault. And I commented through race 1 when we saw him go off at the R.A.W.S. that it looked weird. The crash looked weird. Well, obviously, this is more obvious. This is a technical fault. There's no doubt about that. But the crash at the R.A.W.S. through race 1 looked weird. I wonder whether it was a technical fault that sent him off in that race as well.
It very well could be, and it could be the same problem here that came out to bite him there. So that is what happened to your former AM leader, Brent Vavada, as that is a very tough run. Here is Florea with another spin. That McLaren just suffering from all kinds of issues here today.
Oh, that's a technical fault as well, if I've ever seen it. That was so weird, going backwards there. God Trainer, I think, has spun out the pit lane here as well. When you're on such a tight line, it is a bit of a jump here. The drop on the corner there is quite massive, but it looks like Trainer did negotiate that all right, so that's all right for him. But yeah, a number of technical faults happening out there for whatever reason. I don't know what it is about this race, but we've seen a number of them. Sean Campbell just extends his lead at the moment, coming up to 3 laps to go, and he's even more comfortable than he was a few minutes ago.
Yeah, and credit there to him. He's been able to grow that gap up to about 2 seconds here at this point. Getting the sense that when we were sort of speculating there about Ouellette being able to pull him in, that may have been a little bit of false hope, and that Campbell here is actually just putting the power down now and starting to go away, that he may have been backing off a little bit in the middle of the race.
Yeah. It may well have been. I mean, I didn't have a lot of hope to start with, to be honest with you, and I've certainly not got any now, really. Sean Campbell just has to keep it on the road from this point on, but this is the kind of battle that we could see really develop. Casey Metzger's had a fantastic second half to this race because he was quite a long way behind Delano earlier. He was battling with Fabian Ponsby. You can just see the way he's left the BMW behind, and now he's approaching Delano for second place. If he were to be able to get through, he would break the 1-2 that is the same 1-2 that we saw in race 1, of course, with Venkatarazu beating Delano. Happening again at the moment, unless Metzger can do anything about it.
Looks like he's going to think about it, going down into the chicane. Not going to be able to get much done there as they now work their way on the back half of the circuit, trying to fly their way around. Let's take a look at a replay here. This is Florea again. That same bizarre issue, Ewan. I've got to agree with you. That is a technical failure. So I've got to think you try to hold the brakes in that situation, and indeed that is going to be him out of the race.
Yeah, I think it is technical. I think that's deja vu for us as well. Unless he's had a remarkably similar accident, I think that might be a replay of a replay. But yes, apparently it may well be in a different one. If that is different, that is unbelievable because they're so similar, those two incidents. Wow, yeah, that would be remarkable. Either way, Metzger has managed to get through on Delano. Didn't quite manage it into turn 11, but it looks like eventually he did get it, possibly up into the chicane.
Let's take a look at that replay, and indeed, just able to get the better run there out of Wersteiner and sends it on in very late onto the binders for that Mercedes driver, but makes it work absolutely perfectly. And here we watch as Campbell comes across the line. 2 to go by my reckoning.
Yeah, 2 to go. I'm pretty sure of that. Just over 2 minutes to go, and we're going to get round for one more at the end of this. Just one more for Sean Campbell to get around here without problems and take yet another win here in this series. It took him all the way to round 4 to win one of these race 2s, but ever since then he hasn't missed one. We've not seen a race 2 or a different race 2 winner since all the way back at Watkins Glen, where R.A.W.S beat Carl Boss beat Sean Campbell to the line on that occasion, but it's been a very, very long time since Sean Campbell hasn't won one of these 50-minute races.
Yeah, he has been just absolutely the dominant force here, and especially remarkable considering that these are the reverse grids, and it not only shows his just outright pace and being able to drive that Lamborghini with some pretty incredible speed, but also his ability to piece his way through the field. It really shows, I think, just how of a complete racing driver he is.
I think that's the more impressive thing, really, the way he's able to get through the field, and that's what makes you a so rounded driver to win this championship, because you do not only have to control races from the front and have those clean races that are normally like you would in any other championship, but you also have to go to the back of the field once you've done very well and to come back through and then make your way to the front for the second race as well. So that's what makes you a really well-rounded driver here in this series, and I think it's a great addition. It's slightly longer race as well, helps it develop a little bit more, because I feel like if we had a second 25-minute race that was reverse grid, it would just be complete chaos, and then it will be over before it really began. So it's a nice format, and it really helps to get the best drivers to the front, and we're certainly seeing that in the two championships. Justin Delano and Sean Campbell have pretty comfortable leads in the championships, and that's because a format like this is really filtering out at the very best.
Yeah, it really and truly is. As the white flag waves in the air there for Sean Campbell, diving down to the hook here for the final time. Jonathan Roulette closing in behind. Let's watch John Trainer here coming down into the final corner right now. I believe that's Jeff Carollo there behind him as he goes down into the hook. Oh, we've seen that incident more than a few times here today, Ewan. Just a little bit too much speed.
Mailing is going to be able to get through as a result there as well, but very nearly got into an incident there. By the way, we've had multiple updates on the incidents that have been happening. R.A.W.S had horrific suspension damage, and that explains why his car was so ragged throughout. We've also seen a lot of technical failures, including we've had confirmation as well for Brent Brabata that his VR disconnected, or VR failed, I should say. Yeah, so that's the issue when you can't see. And also, a number of other problems. So it's been a very attritional race for a lot of these drivers, and a remarkable amount of technical failures for whatever reason. Don't know what it is about this particular race, but and tonight indeed, but just a weird amount of technical failures.
Yeah, indeed. A little bit surprising, and sometimes you see those gremlins just really come to play here, and that's unfortunately what we are seeing here today for these drivers. But one driver who has had no such technical failure, no such problem at all, is going to be this man, Sean Campbell, as he works his way through the chicane, the chicane for the final time here, able to get it through the Coca-Cola corner, gets onto the loud pedal for one last time, and Sean Campbell will once again take victory in race 2 here at the Nurburgring.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very nice victory there for him. A couple of seconds in the end. Recovered very well from incidents in race 1. Got through the field nicely here in race 2, and it's another day, another job done here for Sean Campbell, and another step closer to this championship as well, which he's got a very, very good chance of clinching in 1 week's time at Sebring.
Yeah, he certainly does, as we watch Shreyas Vetkanraju now working his way down out of the Dunlop chicane through the Michael Schumacher-S. Just a few more corners here to go for the pretty okay-ish motorsports driver. The number 71 has done very much what we saw Sean Campbell do at the front of the field, just work his way through systematically to be able to take this lead.
Absolutely. It's another great race from Venkatarajan, and a second win in a row as well, which is not often done here in the AM Championship particularly. Unfortunately for him, he'll only take a further 8 points away from Justin Delano, which is not very much at all here today. That gap will come down, but it's still 47 points.
Yeah, still 47 points, and as this championship continues to wind its way closer and closer, he's going to have to keep putting in these good performances, but today he'll be able to celebrate and spray the champagne.
Absolutely, it's a very comfortable victory in the end, and Justin Delano ever so slightly fell apart towards the end of that race as well. Metzger was able to get through and gap him. Delano nearly got caught by Fabian Pons and James Hebb, who raced to the line as well. Pons just beating that one out for 4th place in the end. Very close, though. Good battle towards the end.
Yeah, very good battle here, as here comes Jeff Carollo through the last couple of corners, as well as John Trainer and Braden Mailing. Mailing having a little bit of a tough run in the latter half of this race, but with them crossing over the line, that will be the final finishers here from the Nürburgring, and that means we can go through your final finishing order. Going to be Sean Campbell taking victory over Jonathan Roulette and Dan Tenorio, Jeremy Littleton, and Gary Brown, the last of the finishers here in the pro category, with Wills, Timms, Marias, and Lane all suffering issues. But what about the AMs?
No issues indeed for Shreyas Venkatarasu. It was another comfortable victory for him, nearly 10 seconds ahead of Casey Metzger. Championship leader Justin Delano with a nice day, finishing in 4th ahead of Fabian Ponce and James Hebb, who were close to the line. Jeff Garolo just half a minute back ahead of John Train and Braden Melling, who had a disappointing day. Matthew Plaisance ended up 1 lap down, and so did Charles Bechot to round up the top 10. Drew Neubauer and Andrew Hewitt 11th and 12th. Daniel Fleuret with those technical problems finished 6 laps down. Brent Bravatar's VR problems saw him down in 14th, and Andrew Rasmussen won't pick up any points from that race as he was 19 laps down at the end.
Yes, he will. And folks, that's sadly going to bring us to a close here today from the Nurburgring, but we will be back next week for a race at Sebring, the bumpy track down in Central Florida. But on behalf of myself, DJ Clark, Ewan O'Leary, as well as our director and producer, David Christie, behind the scenes, it has been a pleasure bringing you the racing action here today. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.